our podcast, Keeping It Real.
You're broke. You don't have any money left. Even if you have tons of money, you have no money left. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they don't do a new plan, right? They just feel like they've got all this extra spending money and they put themselves back into debt again.
It's not just one step and you're free and you're wealthy. Paying off your debt doesn't make you wealthy. It's one step to helping you get wealthy. But their lifestyle is making them go into debt. So I had to come up with a way to get them out of debt so that they can see that not only can you get out of debt, but you also have enough cash flow now.
Let's say you had, I don't know, $20,000 of debt and you're in your last 2,000 of that debt and something happened. You lose your job, you get hurt, you become extremely sick, something happened, right? Now what? If you're saying, well, I don't have enough money to live on this luxury life if I do all of this, then you shouldn't be living that luxury life because you're not there.
So when you're sitting with your clients and you're talking about helping them get out of debt, there's a couple different ways of paying off your debt. There's the avalanche and then the snowball. And you had mentioned that you typically talk about the snowball first when you're helping them get out of debt.
Yeah, the snowball is the most common one. I think a lot of advisors, if they're aware of it, will use when they talk about debt reduction. I just think it's the most common in the industry, the snowball effect or the snowball strategy. And so today, I think what we're going to focus a little bit on is which one is more practical, which one works in most case scenarios per se. I guess, and which one's which one do we use, I guess, as advisors to assist our clients when we're talking about debt reduction? And this might open the eyes of people because they might have never heard or have no idea what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like what each one is, because I have my opinion on the avalanche, which is the other one, right? The avalanche versus the snowball. So why don't you explain kind of like what each one focuses on first, like the difference between both?
Okay, well, what we're going to break down today is the snowball strategy is one where you take the smallest balance and you attack it. Like you attack it like it's, you're a hungry dog and it's that piece of meat that's there, right? So, so if you got a lineup of debts, let's say 3 or 4 credit cards or whatever of debt, whichever one is the smallest balance. So you're just gonna worry about that one. You're gonna pay your minimum payments on your other ones, and you're gonna attack that smallest debt, like there's no tomorrow, and try and get that out as quickly as possible. As soon as that's done, as soon as you're done paying that, you're that amount of money that you're paying into reducing that debt, you're just going to take to the next smallest debt, right? And same thing. And again, the focus is you're going to attack this thing, you're going to attack this debt like it's crucial to your life type thing, right? Which is what I think that's the thing that most people don't realize is they'll get doing that and then they'll stop. They'll stop, right? And they don't realize, okay, they they lose their focus or they get tempted to buy other things and add on to the debt, right? No, this is one of those things where your debt has to become your main priority and you have to focus on that. And if you're struggling prior to speaking to your advisor and prior to talking about debt reduction, I think if you're already struggling and stressing and all of these things, by adding more to it later on, thinking, I don't know if it's comfort purchasing or anything, it's not helping you. And you're going to be in the same situation continuously and forever ongoing. So no, once you start this strategy plan, the buying of anything, you're broke. At this point, you are broke. So your plan is starting, you're broke. You don't have any money left. Even if you have tons of money, you have no money left and you're focusing everything literally on this debt. And you're paying the smallest balance first. And you're just moving on, again, you pay off the smallest one, you take that payment, you put on the next one, and you keep going and going and going until you're at the last one, right? And then you pay that one off, and then you're debt free, you're done, you're clear. All that payment that you've been paying to reduce this debt now becomes disposable income. The problem is doesn't mean it's spending income, right? It's disposable in the sense that you can now take that money that you've been paying your debt off and you're going to invest that in some form to be progressive into your future, right? You've been paying this debt off. You're going to now build a new strategy plan on how to now use that disposable income. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they don't do a new plan, right? They just feel like they've got all this extra spending money and they put themselves back into debt again, right?
Yeah.
And then the debt reduction becomes their circle of life. And
So
you
then,
don't want your debt.
so then how do they avoid that then? Because like we want to help people kind of like understand that this is an option they can take, or these are two options they can take to pay off their debt. And we want to help people maybe avoid what you said, but going back into debt really, or not utilizing the extra cash flow they have, more smartly, I guess. Yeah, more effectively. Like, why are we doing this in the first place is really the question. Is like, right? Isn't that the
Absolutely.
question? Is like, why are we trying to get out of debt in the first place?
Yeah, you got to look at, again, if you're thinking about getting involved with a financial advisor, the first step you got to realize is why am I even thinking about my finance, right? Is it because you're stressing out, or because, if it's because you're in a position where you're stressing out over your finances and you seem like you can't get ahead, you're just paying, paycheck to paycheck, or you're at a point in your life thinking, man, if I keep this up, I'm going to be in serious trouble later on, right? Things of that nature, whatever thought process you're going into, you got to understand, okay, you're meeting with this advisor. Everything you do, each step you do with the advisor is just a step. So if the first one is debt reduction, that's just a step. So once you finish that step, you got to take the next step, right? So don't think you're done once you've taken care of your debt. You're not done. You're actually, you just kind of, swept that first step off, and now it's clear. So now you can see where the next step is to take, right? And that's all you're doing, right? And then you get some people who think, okay, you know what, they feel like they're in a great place. Their income is increased, and they want to start investing money, so they meet with an advisor and they start an investment plan, right? And then they never talk to their advisor again. Okay, well, that starting of an investment portfolio is just the first step, right?
Yeah.
Same things. You got to take the next step, because otherwise your life is going to be changing. Situation is going to change. You've now reduced your debt. Your debt is now gone. Your life is going to change at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So unless you don't want it to, unless you're happy stressing, if you're happy in that scenario, all the power to you, and continue on, right? But if you're not happy and you want to, improve your level of life and your quality of life, right? Then speak to your advisor. Okay, the advisor will probably reach out to you. Okay, the debt should be gone by this time. That we've timelined this. The debt should be gone. And where are you at? And if you're avoiding that advisor because you haven't been doing your debt reduction plan the way it was laid out, and it's the timeline, and it's time for your advisor to reach out to you, and you're avoiding them, again, at that point, self-reflect, people. Do you really want to be in a better position, right? And if you don't, just carry on, right? Just do what you're doing and spend all your money and have nothing for later, right? But if you're looking for a better quality of life, reach out to the advisor. Okay, I've completed, my debt is now gone, or I'm in my last stages of my debt, right? And then your advisor will start to develop the next plan, right? What to do once this thing is done. You had mentioned avalanche. You have your own opinion about avalanche. That's still playing on me. I'm curious. I want to know that, because before we end up closing the segment, I want to know what you were talking about there.
I have a lot of clients that would rather pay off the ones that are higher interest than start with the smallest balance. And I just go with what they feel. I don't tell them which is better. I go with how they feel. So like they say, well, I would rather pay this off because it's like 24%. This car loan's only 8.9%. Great. The fact that they chose themselves which one they wanted to focus on first, right? And then to your point, I say, but let's be honest here. Let's come back to how you got here in the first place. As soon as you pay off this 24% credit card, right? We need you to cut it off. Like this is not available income for you. Like this is gone. You don't have this anymore. Let's get rid of it. You cannot go back into it, because that payment that you've been putting onto that credit card needs to now go onto the next piece of debt, which happens to be this other credit card, 19%, right? You have to be very focused on knowing that we're getting rid of this for good, not just making these payments go away for good, but this piece of credit card that you've relied on for income, because let's face it, that's what you've done, is you've used this for income. It's going away. You're not getting this back. So when I said I have my opinion about avalanche, I believe that it depends on the balances too, right? You could have a really high credit card interest rate of 24%, but maybe that's sitting at $2,000 for a balance. Right? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Tell me if I'm right in thinking this, but I think some people think, oh, okay, now I've got all this extra money, and the advisor's now just thinking about their commission, and they're just going to try and sell me something.
That is an interesting point, but I've never, ever, ever thought that anyone would think that. Have you run into people that actually think that?
Well, have you run into people who think, when they're first reaching out to, or let's say you're reaching out to clients, and they think, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. You're just trying to sell me insurance, or you're just trying to sell me. You're just thinking about your commission.
But what I need to understand is like your question, which is also not when someone accuses you of just trying to make more commission off of them after you've shown them how to get out of debt. Is that what he said, or?
Again, I was just asking you if you think that maybe clients might be thinking this way because they've got more money now. They've cleared their debt. They've got more money, right?
Well, let
So,
me back up. Let's back up here. I don't have
mhm.
any clients that are out of debt. Do you? Do you actually have somebody who actually followed a debt plan and can actually say, "Yay, I'm out of debt. I'm going to go now start, step 2," like you've alluded to. These are multiple steps. I feel that people are not even coming close to even getting out of debt because like to your point, they can't even start. They don't even know where to start. So we're talking about two different options right
Yeah, so
now.
I had a client,
Yes.
and I've spoken to you about this in past, and she was referred to me by her daughter, and she was going to the bank to set up a consolidation loan.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so I gave her a debt reduction strategy,
Mhm.
right? So first meeting, so we
Without
worked on
going to
debt
the
reduction.
consolidation loan, without doing that,
With
you mean?
I showed her her layout, and she didn't need to do a consolidation loan. She just needed to develop habits.
Okay.
That's what she needed to do, but she was
Right.
looking for the easy way out.
Right.
Okay, so I showed her how to reduce her debt in a very quick time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And she was getting to the point. Listen to how I'm choosing my words. She was getting to the point where her debt was going to be clear. Right. And then I reached out to her because it was getting close to that time. Exactly the scenario. Reaching out to her, we should continue on with your strategy plan, right? Because by now you should have attacked your debt pretty good. And now she's got extra income because of the fact that she's not paying as much into her debt and all these things. She's saying she doesn't have the money to, and again, people understand we are insurance brokers. So the first thing people think is, okay, now they're going to try and sell me insurance. Okay. So and they think of that as a negative thing. One,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so she's avoiding the meeting now and saying, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. Your debt should be almost clear, right, at this point. And the last time I did speak to her, she said, yeah, her debt was almost like she'd almost cleared off her debt, and she again just attacking that. I see on her social media, she's Christmas parties, event parties, and out to dinner with her husband and things of that nature. Her husband has a full financial plan set up. He's like, if something were to happen to him, she's going to be great, right? But if anything happens to her, he is going to be burdened, right? So it's not equal. There's no equilibrium in their plan, right? He is trying to get her on board, but he's the one who was really interested in meeting with me because he's been everything that, and it's funny because during our meeting he said everything I've told her he's been trying to get to her, trying to let her know as well, right? But he was hoping that maybe third party she would listen to as opposed to him, right? And I could implement. He can't implement anything, I can implement it, right? So again, exactly the scenario where now she should have more disposable income because her debt is now cleared, but she's not doing anything with it other than again spending it again and then redeveloping that debt, right? Because now she's got all this extra luxury money, which is the temptation of now buying things and spending things, and she doesn't realize she's doing that. She's just all of a sudden now she's just out and about more, right? Oh, let's go do this, let's go do that, and things of that nature. So that's, but and again, avoiding contacting me. I know when I reach out to her, avoiding wanting to do anything farther than now she's reduced her debt.
But do you think that has to do with the fact that she's skeptical about you making money off of her, or just her habits?
Well, again, or not wanting to invest in the things that you should be investing in. This is again, don't think of insurance as something that you're spending money on. It's an investment. Insurance
Mm-hmm.
is an investment. So if we're trying to say, okay, you've now set yourself in a good place. Now we got to think about building obviously they're going to think about now building your wealth. But if you're at a position where you're wanting to build your wealth, you also want to protect your wealth. They go
Yeah.
hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
right? They go hand in hand. It's not just building wealth and not worrying about protecting it. No, you can't just do one and not the other. Because if the scenario is you build your wealth, you start doing really, really well, and then something happens, right? An unforeseeable happens. All that wealth building is going to be eaten up really fast, really, really fast.
Right.
So you can't just rely on that. right?
No.
Now, if you've built your wealth and you have millions and millions of dollars sitting in your investment savings, and and the equivalent, let's say, of a coverage, then maybe we can talk about whether you need to have that coverage, maybe,
Right.
right? But I can tell you, and I've said I've said this to people. Okay, let's say I'll use this scenario. You've reduced your debt, okay, and now do you have at this point, do you have $50,000 on hand if something were to happen to you? I'm just using, just a small amount, $50,000 if something were to happen to you. Well, the answer is no, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's have a coverage of $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And build up your wealth to $50,000, right? And that way, if something were to happen to you, your family will have $50,000, right? For whatever, to properly mourn, set things up, all of this kind of stuff. Your beneficiary will at least have that $50,000, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm using a small amount, whatever. So, but if let's say your investment portfolio is now at $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you can consider whether or not you want to keep that policy. But here's the thing: if you've developed your wealth to that, anyone who's ever done that is going to increase the amount of protection they have. They're not going to cancel it. They're actually going to increase it, because now they at that point have developed the right frame of mind and the right logic to understand the importance of both, right? You can't, you're stressing over your bills, you're stressing over your income and all these things because you don't have any security there. You have
Yeah.
zero security, right?
Yeah.
You think if something were to ever happen, if you lost your job, you would be who? You would be in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Why
Well,
did she
that's
come
what
to you in the first place? Like when
she didn't. She was referred to me.
okay,
She was
but
referred to me.
she would be referred to you
But
because she complained to somebody about something.
correct. She was complaining about her debt to her family, and then so I had set up financial plans for the kids, and then so the kids said,
Right.
"Hey, you should talk to my mom."
Yeah.
Right. Interestingly enough, I met with the mom, and as the husband's listening to me through our
Mhm.
meeting, he was not thinking about setting up any plans at that point until he heard me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, then he set up a meeting with me directly because he
Right.
wanted to talk about it. So he understood, like he got it during our meeting. He got it, and he became interested in setting up something. So he did it, and then they referred her mother, because her mother had come across an investment, and she was investing this at the bank, and they wanted to know if there was, wanted me to see if there was anything better I could do than what they had set up at the bank, which obviously I was able to do. So things of that nature. So everyone around her is doing, at least trying to set up their financial life properly, and she just hasn't gotten there yet. But the problem is she's the one who is at a critical stage in her life because she's in her late 40s and needs to really bear down because she's at a very crucial point in her life, right?
Well,
So
what do
again,
you do? Do you focus on her and trying to change your mind, or do you move on?
well, at this point now, again, we are here as people that can guide you and help you. We are not, and we will hold your hand if you want your hand to be held,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you yourself do not want to work with us, then we're not going. Our time is just as valuable as yours, right? So we're gonna have to move on, and then at some point you might reach back out to us, or you'll reach out to somebody because
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be back in the same situation and the same stresses, and you're gonna reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
Whether you can humble yourself to reach out to that advisor that helped you in the first place, or you reach out to a different one,
So
right?
really what we're kind of talking about is debt, paying it off. She was about to go to consumer proposal. You got her a debt strategy, whether it was Snowball or Avalanche, didn't matter. Really, at the end of the day, both work. We know that they both work. On paper, they both work, but life happens and you still have to come back to the fact that what got you there in the first place, it's that habit that actually you have to kick before you can even have any of these strategies work, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about cash flow and like how much you're going to make once we free up this cash flow. Really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's still, to your point, your client's debt that she's ultimately responsible for. She's stressing about. You were kind enough to show her a way to get out without going into really another piece of debt at the bank. Really, that's what you stopped her from doing. And she's still, if she's telling the truth about paying off that debt, and she did, she's still not following through with the plan. So
Right.
you're right to the point where, you're right where it's not just one step and you're free and you're wealthy. Paying off your debt doesn't make you wealthy. It's one step to helping you get wealthy, and protecting your wealth is just as important when you are, in fact, accumulated your assets. Whether or not she thinks or anyone else in the future thinks you're making money off of this. You're the only one with the answer, Phil. You're like, you're the only one with the answer. You were the only one with the plan. No one showed her how to get out of debt. And at the end of the day, she has to want it as much, if not more, than you do. Because it sounds like maybe through this conversation, she didn't want it as much as her husband wanted it for her daughter wanted, or is it her daughter? Her daughter wanted it for her. I mean, you're a stranger that comes from, and you might present the expertise and the professionalism and therefore the plan, but she obviously doesn't want it as much as you do either. And you have probably less of a stake to help her get out of debt because you don't get paid to help people get out of debt. That's not how your business works. And I mean, there's different levels of debt. We talk about, and then people relate differently to debt too. Like somebody who you like for her, she felt she needed to go to get a consolidation loan because she felt overwhelmed by this debt. And you showed her that no, you can do this yourself and here's how. So she herself felt overwhelmed with the balance of debt she had. She felt she needed to go and get relief through another piece of debt at the bank, right? Whereas some people could have probably way more debt than she had and not feel a thing and just keep going into debt. So I mean, to come back to how debt, big or small, how is that affecting your stress level? How is it affecting your cash flow? How is it affecting your ability to move in a positive direction instead of continuously go negative, right? And then I mean, this is a different podcast altogether. So whether it's Snowball or Avalanche or consumer proposal or bankruptcy or consolidation loan, it really doesn't matter. What matters is starting something and understanding why you got there in the first place, because we need to cut that habit out first before we start talking about strategies. And that's my experience in doing debt reduction since I left the bank 9 years ago. 9 years ago almost, pretty much. I started to focus on helping people get out of debt only because I knew, and let's come back to your point, only because I knew they would be resistant to any other recommendations I had. Paying into insurance, paying into their RSPs, paying into their TFSA. I knew that people weren't doing that at the bank. How do I get them to understand that this is the problem that's prohibiting you from reaching these far off goals that you might not even have thought about? It's your debt. It's their debt. It's their payments. It's their lifestyle, but their lifestyle is making them go into debt. So I had to come up with a way to get them out of debt so that they can see that not only can you get out of debt, but you also have enough cash flow now. And I don't know if she had the cash flow, Phil, to do all of the insurance and the investments first. Maybe she didn't, but I always try to put them together. Like, this is one big plan now. Like, I'm not paying off your debt, then we're doing this. No, it's more important that we actually do this before I show you how to get out of debt. But hey, you need both.
Yeah, and you know what? There are advisors out there. I don't know if you've heard them, where they will say, don't start investing, don't buy any insurance, don't do any of that until you cleared your debt, right? There are advisors that say that out there. Now, people know these are advisors that are typically fee-based, and they're going to charge you a fee for even getting a plan, okay? So they're getting paid. Whether you get out of debt or not, they are paid, okay? And a lot of advisors go that route because of the fact that, they want to get something for their time, which is fair, right? That's fair. So the idea of that, though, and here's the thing, you're 100% correct in the idea of it's probably best to kind of get everything happening at once, because as you're reducing, you're building at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. The ones who focus on just reducing debt 100% first, okay, but what if something happens as you're trying to reduce that debt, right? What if something happens? You can see the finish line. Let's say you had, I don't know, $20,000 of debt, and you're in your last 2,000 of that debt, and something happened. You lose your job, you get hurt, you become extremely sick, something happened, right? Now what? Okay, now your debt is no longer 2,000 because now you've got medical bills, you've got all these other things, you've lost your job, you are reusing your credit as income, whatever, you've got no emergency fund, all of these things, right? So here's I think, and I don't know if you agree with me, I think a good advisor is always, what they're going to do is they're going to look at your income level, right? They're going to look at your situation, and they're going to take a certain percentage and calculate, okay, this much percentage in your current situation right now should be going towards debt reduction. This percentage should be going to wealth accumulation, and this percentage is going to go towards your protection plan, right? And everything's going to be broken down to the percentages. That percentage should be based off of your income and your disposable income, right? And then building from there. Because again, and keep in mind, a good advisor is going to leave you a spending account. They're going to leave you because you have to live your life now as well as live for your future. You have to do both, right? Because you want to enjoy your life now, but at the same time, what's enjoying? Right? If you're overspending and stressing, are you enjoying life or are you not? So living within your means, right, becomes a reality now, and that advisor should be showing you what your means is. This is where you should be living your life. If you're trying to overlive that, then you know what? You need to get a higher paying job. You need to make more money, and then you can enjoy that. Right? But you're not there right now. So quit trying that, because you're meeting with me now because you're stressing and you're not actually enjoying life. So let's nip that in the bud right now, right? Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. Oh, that's great. But why are you stressing then?
Yeah.
Right? Why are you stressing? Why can't you buy your groceries this week? Or why can't you pay your rent? Or why are you not be able to pay things off if you've got this luxurious life? You know what I mean? So people, let's going to be a reality check. That's going to be the first step. This is your reality. This is where you should be living your life. Okay. And by putting all these pieces of the puzzle in place, the debt reduction, the wealth building, the protection plan, putting all those in place. If you're saying, well, I don't have enough money to live on this luxury life if I do all of this, then you shouldn't be living that luxury life, because you're not there. If you can't put those things in place as a baseline, right, then you're in serious trouble. And you have to realize that. It doesn't mean I can't afford to do it. It means you are in serious trouble and you need to be able to afford to do it, right? And you need to work with your advisor to figure out how to do it, right? And get it all to work in place, because it's all based off of percentages of where you are in your life right now. So anyone can set all of these things up, right? And in small steps, incrementally move up and move up and move up and gradually build and build and build, right? To a position where you're no longer worrying about your stability, because your stability is already in place. So now all you're doing is enjoying your life.
Right.
The stress is gone. You now have your financial plan of spending, because you've already set up your financial plan of stability. Now you'll be able to talk with your advisor. Okay, this is where I'm at. Thank you very much. You helped me get here. Okay, now I want at Christmas, I want to be able to buy things for all my family, and I want to be able to do this. Okay, so let's work out a plan for that. Let's see how that works out into your budget. This is how this is all going to work. Okay, and you're still able to contribute to your financial stability, right? You're going to be able, and you're still paying off your debt. So your bills, your current bills, it's not becoming debts, right? And now we're going to work on a plan on how you're going to spend your money, and for the things that you want to luxury spend on. You're all set. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's like, okay, this is what I've got, and you just do it. Now you're not thinking about it, you're not stressing about it. It's all pretty much laid out for you, and you just have to follow the plan.
Yeah. So I think definitely talking a little bit more about habits. Let's talk about habits and how we're all conditioned to even get into debt in the first place. I think people need to understand that. Might help people understand themselves a little bit more. A little bit of self-reflection does not hurt. In fact, could be the first stepping stone to trying to get out of this financial hell that some of you might be feeling. Thanks, everybody.